Okay, in this video, we are going to, I'm going to go through the steps to create a typographic effect using Photoshop Wow Styles. The Photoshop Wow Styles are preset effects that you can apply to a number of different types of graphics. It could be vector graphics or it could be typography, which is what we're going to do today. We're going to apply these preset styles and then we're going to modify them in Photoshop. And it's a great starting point. And you'll see that there are a variety of different styles. I have given you those styles as a gift to you, which you can download from the Canvas page on Working with Wow Styles. These styles were I obtained from a book that I bought from a long time ago, and so I've always used them in class, and you can use them now too. If you have Photoshop at home, you can load them in your Photoshop, and you'll always have them available. Okay, so let's get started, and I'm going to share my screen here. And we're going to jump right into Canvas. And the first thing I'm going to do is click on the Photoshop Wow Styles category. And this will show you some of the effects that you can achieve using the Wow Styles. Now, we're not going to do this one, this graphic. But you can play around with it after you have all the assets to complete this. And you can try doing this once we're done with this demo. The one we're going to do today is this one here. We're going to create this graphic called the Terminator. Let's say it's a movie title. And this could be any graphic made out of typography. We're going to create the background. We're going to create this kind of beveled, embossed or debossed rectangle. Then we're going to set the word Terminator and the word Judgment Day, and we're going to apply some Wow Styles to achieve these effects. Okay, under the, you're going to have to download a couple of things. One is going to be the Omakase Demo Zip. Okay, make sure you download that. So I'll go ahead and download that. And then you're also going to download the Wow Styles, which is at the bottom here, Wow Styles Zip. So we'll download that. Okay. And we should have both of these. You can put them on your desktop or put them in your ThawSpace or in your hard drive at home. And you will, let me just grab these and put them out on the desktop. Okay. And inside the Wow Styles zip, you will see, if I open this up and open up the folder, you'll see that this folder contains all of these a.asi files. And these are all the styles that you're going to be loading in Photoshop, and we'll get to how to load those in Photoshop. And then if you open up the Omakase demo zip inside here, you will see some of the assets that you will need to complete those effects. Now, you're not going to need this one, which is the graphic that we're not going to do, nor do you need this. What you're going to need is this type font. It's called Avertequestra Personal Use Only.ttf. This is the font that you're going to load into FontBook on a Mac, and so that Photoshop is going to recognize this font when we use it. Okay, so those two folders you're going to access and put away. And that is all we need to get started in this. All right. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is going back to the WoW Styles example here, is we're going to open up a page in Photoshop that's in pixels, and it's going to be 1920 by 1080 pixels, 1920 wide by 1080 deep. And then we're going to add just a simple rectangle and then this word Terminator and Judgment Day. Okay, so let's go and open up Photoshop. Okay, now that we have Photoshop open, we're going to simply go and open up a new file. So we'll go to New File. And we're going to open up with a 1920 by 1080 in pixels. Okay, very important that you do pixels and not inches. We're going to use a horizontal or landscape orientation. Resolution will be 72 pixels per inch. And then everything else will be the same as you see here. RGB color 8-bit, white background. This should be the default, so you can just go ahead and create that canvas size, and it should look like that. You should have your rulers out, and if you don't, just a quick Command R will bring out your rulers. Over on the side here, your side panels will be, if you kind of click this little arrow right here, this little down arrow, we're going to be on Essentials. Essentials is going to allow you to have these tabs as you see them here on my screen. And that should be where we start. Okay. Now, what you're going to have to do is, number one, you're going to have to load that type font into Font Book, and you know how to do that. And once you have that, then Photoshop will be able to recognize that font. The next thing that you're going to do is have to load the WoW styles into Photoshop. And if you have Photoshop at home, you only have to do this once. Once you load them in, every time you access Photoshop, they will always be there. But if you load them in at school, you're going to have to load them in every class session, because we have it. The system will kick it out of Photoshop every time we turn off the computers. Okay, so to load the styles, what we're going to need to do is have our styles located here. And it's under this little Effects tab, Effects. And if you see the Effects, if I click it, I have already loaded the styles into Photoshop. But let's back up a sec. And if you don't see this FX styles icon here anywhere in your palette configuration here, then what you need to do is you need to go to Window and you need to get Styles out. So you'll see Styles right here under Window. You'll see Styles. You'll click on Styles and you'll drag the styles into your palettes. Okay, so if I click on Styles here, you can see that my styles here are loaded in my dock here. They can be here or they can be in these tabs. It doesn't really matter, but as long as you have access to them. Okay, once you click open the styles, you're going to see the basics styles that Photoshop gives you. And that includes all of the styles up to, I believe, fabric. Okay, it's going to give you all of these styles as part of the program. What we're going to do is we're going to add all of these styles. Okay, everything below fabric, we're going to wood and wood styles and all of this. We're going to load all of this into Photoshop, and that's what I gave you. Okay, so the way you do that, the way you bring in these styles, is you're going to click this little menu button, this little hamburger icon here, and you're going to click Import Styles. Okay, and when you click import styles, it's going to say, okay, where are the styles that you want to import? Okay, you're going to open up this, you're going to look for this folder here, which might be on your hard drive. And when you click on styles, you're going to see all of those styles. Okay, right now they're on my desktop under WoW styles, and you're going to see all of these styles. Now I've already loaded these styles into Photoshop, so I'm not going to do it again, but the way you're going to do it is you're going to click on the first style and then click, you can't load the, okay, you can't just click on this folder and load it. You have to click on every single style. So click on the first one, hold the shift key down, click on the last one, and then open. Okay, and once you do that, and I'm not going to do that, but once you do that, they will populate this styles menu here, or this styles dialog box. And you're going to have all these styles available to you, and we're going to use some of the styles in here for this example. Okay, so once you've loaded your styles, once you've loaded your font, we can begin to create this. Okay, now the first thing that we're going to do, and I've taken some notes here, is that we're going to create the background color here. Now when you open up this file, you'll have a background layer, and we're going to have to create that color. So we're going to come over to our panel here, and we're going to click on our fill color. We'll just double click on that. And I'll give you the numbers right now. The number is RGB values. So we're going to click in the RGB value, and I'm going to click in 12, hit the tab key, 23, hit the tab key, and 35. 35. Okay, that's going to give us that dark navy blue color that our background is. I'm going to click OK, and that's going to be our fill color here. And then I'm going to click on the background. Okay, that's the background layer is the only layer we have. And I'm going to fill that background with the foreground color. Okay, and the way we do that is just simply Option and Delete on the keyboard. Option and Delete. And that fills that background with this color. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the inner rectangle, and I'll just kind of revert back to the example here. Okay, let me just revert back to this so that we can see this. And you can see that it is a dark blue background, and then we're going to create this rectangle here. So let's go back and let's create the rectangle. We're going to do that with the Marquee Select tool, one of the marquee tools. And if we click on this tool, we're going to use the rectangular marquee tool. It's the second one down on the toolbar. So we'll click on that. It becomes a little crossbar. And I'm just going to arbitrarily draw a rectangle. Okay, just draw that rectangle. I want to draw that rectangle on not the background layer, but another layer. Okay, so I'm going to create another layer. And that is the layer that this is going to be drawn on. Okay, so because this is drawn and I selected the layer, this is the active layer now. And what I'm going to do is size this to the right size. And the size of this is going to be 20.06 in the width area. Okay, so I'm going to click this, 20.06, and then I'm going to hit the tab key and 20.06, go down to height, and the height is going to be 8.49, 8.49. Okay, and I'll click. Okay, so that shape now is 20.06 by 8.49. I'm going to grab this shape. Oh, I have to fill it with something. I'm sorry. Okay, so we have to fill this before I can move it and center it. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill this with, we'll fill it with the same color here. Okay, since we have this color. We'll fill it with the foreground color. And again, the way you fill a shape is Option Delete. Okay, so Option Delete. And we can see in our layers palette here that our layer was filled with this blue. Okay, it doesn't look like anything here because we have blue on blue. Okay, now that it's filled, we can now kind of move this and center it. So I'm going to move this, I'm going to just grab it, and I'm going to look for that kind of magenta that tells us it's centered, and I'm going to go up and down until I get the, okay, I can feel it click right there, and that means it's centered vertically and it's centered horizontally. So this is centered exactly in this background. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply an effect. Okay, and I'm going to pull out this effects tab with this layer selected. I'm going to pull out the effects tab, and I'm going to use the effect called halo. It's a halo style. So I'm just going to come down here. Now, if all of your folders are up, go ahead and spin them down so that you can see what effects are in that folder. I'm going to come all the way down to the halo effects, coming down, 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 down. And I believe that they are here. Wow, halo styles. Okay, and the halo style I'm going to use is one called Carved Sharp. And if I hover over these, you can see there it is, Carved Sharp. This one here is called Carved Round. Okay, they kind of look the same, but this is the one that we're going to use. And to apply an effect to a selection, all you do is click on it. Okay, and there it is. So I've clicked on this and applied that effect to this shape. Okay, I'm going to put this away for now. And you can see what happened when I click that. We have in our layers palette all of the effects that were applied to this layer. When I click that shape, it applied a bevel and emboss, an inner shadow, and a color overlay. So let's take a look and see what these effects look like. So I'm going to go up to the effects word, and I'm going to double click on that, and that brings out the layer style menu. Okay, and by default it should be previewed, and so it's going to show me what that effect looks like. Okay, now before I do this, let me cancel out of this for a sec. We're going to do this again, but I'm going to deselect the marching ants here so that we can see the effect. So I'm going to go back, to the original. I'm going to do Command D, and that takes away the marching ants. And now we can see what that effect looks like. Now I'm going to go to the word effects, and I'm going to double click on that, and we're going to make some adjustments. So the effects that were applied in that halo style was a bevel emboss, an inner shadow, and a color overlay. You can see that because these are checked. Okay, these are the effects that were applied. I'm going to click on bevel and emboss, and it's going to give me all of the parameters of that bevel and emboss. Now this is where you can kind of come in and revise things and modify them to the way you like it. Now the style is fine, outer bevel, we're going to keep that. We're going to keep the same technique, chisel hard, but we're going to change the depth. No, the depth is at 100. We're going to keep that there. We're going to change the size. Instead of 3 pixels, we're going to make it 16 pixels. And watch what that does to the bevel itself. As I move the slider to the right, you can see what's happening. Okay, this is 40 pixels, and you can see how wide that bevel became. Okay, I'm going to bring this back down to 16. Okay, and that's the bevel that we're going to use. That's the bevel that's going to be similar to, or exactly to our example. Those are the only things that we're going to do in the bevel and emboss dialog box, just changing this to 16. But there's all kind of other things that you can do. You can change the direction of the bevel. You can change, you're going to have to play with these. The overlay highlight mode, you see the highlight down here. Okay, this light area here, or the dark area here, the shadow area. You can change the color of those things. But anyway, we're not going to get into all of that. Okay, so that's the bevel and emboss. I'm going to click OK. Now we're not going to do anything with inner shadow or color overlay, we're just going to keep those the same. I'm going to click OK, and there we have it. Okay, so that represents now this. Okay, this kind of bevel and emboss shape. Okay, now we're going to set the word Terminator. Okay, so we're going to come back and we're going to grab our type tool. Okay, and you're going to look up here. Once you access your type tool, you're going to look up here, and what I would do is just find the typeface that you're going to use, this Avert Equestria. Okay, select that as your typeface. It only comes in regular, I believe. Yeah, just regular. And go ahead and set it to, well, we're going to use a very large point size. So it's not going to be 50 points. It's actually going to be 342 points. So what you could do is you can change that right now to 342 points. Okay. Then I'm going to bring my cursor into the canvas and click once. Okay. Now when I click once, it set that word lorem ipsum. Okay, because that's what Photoshop always does. It gives you a sample type. I'm going to change this to white. Okay, let's just change this because right now it's black. I'm going to change this to the color white. I can do it here by clicking up here. Okay, and click OK. Or I could have gone to my swatches and I could have clicked white up here. Okay, so here is the type, and obviously what we need to do now is change this wording to Terminator. Okay, so I'll type Terminator. Okay, now this is the correct size. I've given you the size, 342 points. But we're going to do some modifications here. Okay, so some of the things that we need to do to this, and this will make sense a little bit later. We're going to highlight this word, and I'm going to come over to my type properties. Okay, I have type attributes right here. You can see that it's 342 points. Okay, now we're going to change the tracking here. See, if we spin down this scroll bar here, we have all kind of other things we can do with type. But right here where it says tracking, we are going to make it 50. And I've already changed this to 50, but yours might say 0. So change it to 50. And another thing that we're going to do is we're going to warp this text. We're going to take the text and kind of bend it. If you look at the example over here, this type is kind of bent around a curve like that. And the way we do that, this type is going straight across. The way we do that is with this text highlighted, we're going to come up here to this icon up here. And you can see it's a T with a curve around it. If I click on that, we get the warp text dialog box. The text warp that we're going to use is arch. Okay, so we're going to click arch. And when we do that, you're going to see the text really arch around. This bend is defaulting at +50. We obviously don't want it to bend that much. In fact, we're just going to bend this +10. So I'm going to pull this all the way down to +10. So it's a very subtle blend. A subtle bend. And that's what we're going to use. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to get on my move tool. And let's just kind of move this text now. I'm going to click on it and just kind of move this in here and centered because we have the horizontal magenta bar that shows. Okay, that tells us that it's centered. We'll just keep it here for now. Okay, now with this type selected, we're going to apply the style. And the style is going to be it's going to be a metal style. Okay, when you look at this looks like metal because the Terminator is about a machine, kind of liquid metal, not liquid metal, but a metal under skeleton of a creature. And so we're going to use this metal effect. Again, these are things that we can only do in Photoshop. We cannot do these in Adobe Illustrator or InDesign. So this is unique to Photoshop. Okay, so we're going to go to our styles. We've selected the Terminator layer. That's important. And we're going to go to our styles. And we're going to come down now to our metal styles. Okay, so just kind of scroll down here. And we'll find the metal styles. Those are chrome styles, fabric styles. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, here they are, the metal styles. And the metal style that we're going to use is the one called stamped metal. And I believe it might be this one right here. Yeah, stamped metal. There's some other metal styles here, brushed steel, polished steel. We're going to use stamped metal. And all we do is click on it. Okay, and you can see it applied that style. Okay, if we look in our layers palette again, we can see that, let me pull this up a little bit, we can see that it applied these styles to, let me pull this down a little bit, the word Terminator. Okay, we have a bevel and emboss, a stroke, a satin overlay, color overlay, a gradient overlay. So all of these styles are in this, all of these effects are in this style. Okay, and you know, when you change styles, it's just a matter of clicking on any one of these styles. This one here is kind of, you know, and you can see what effects are in these things. These always change based on the style that you select. Okay, back to stamped metal. Okay, I'm going to put this away. And again, we're going to go into these effects and I'm going to double click. And we're going to see that indeed these check boxes are the effects that were applied to this. Okay, so we're going to make some modifications here and I've written them down. So let's go first to our bevel and emboss. I'll double click on that. And again, we get the bevel and emboss dialog box. Under style, instead of pillow emboss, we're going to go back to that outer bevel. Okay, so we're going to change that to outer bevel. And you're going to see what happens. Okay, as you do these things, always look to your example here to see what happened. Okay, chisel hard is going to be the default, and we'll keep it at that. Our depth is going to be 22 and our size is going to be 12. So I'm going to go to depth and I'm going to bring this, actually it's 251 right now. So I'm going to bring this down to a depth of only 22 and I'll just type the number in here. Okay, it's already highlighted. If it's not highlighted, then just double click in here and just do 22. Okay, and then the size, I'm going to double click in the size field and I'm going to make the size 12. 1, 2. Okay, and wow, you can see what happened when I did that. Okay, when I did 12, we got a much more kind of intense outline around this. Okay, we're going to go with, we're not going to change anything else in here except for the color overlay. We're going to take that off. And when I click this checkbox here, when I uncheck it, watch what happens to the color of this type. Okay, 3, 2, 1. It got darker. Okay, and it got a little bit more dramatic and a little darker grays. Okay, so that's it. That's all we're going to do with this text. I mean, this now, I'm going to click OK. Make sure you always click OK. If you click cancel, then it goes back to the original. So I'm going to click OK. Okay, and this now is what this is. Okay, so that's how we achieved that look. Again, there's a lot of other things that you can do, and it's just a matter of playing around with it and seeing, you know, what else you want to achieve. Okay, now that this is done, the last thing that we're going to do, the only thing we're going to do is set the type Judgment Day. Okay, so we'll go over here, we'll grab our text tool again. Only this time, before we, you know, click and initiate that text, let's change this to what it's going to be. Okay, and I'll tell you right now, it's going to be Trajan Pro. Actually, what we have to do is, before we do that, we're going to have to uncheck. Or we're going to have to select the text. Okay, we're going to click down here and it's going to set it in this big grotesque typeface. I'm just going to click once. Okay, there it is. And now I'll change it. Let's change this now to Trajan Pro. Okay, and we're going to change this to 50 points. Okay, I'll just double click in here and type it in manually. 50. Okay, Trajan Pro. And I believe it's Trajan Pro Bold. Okay, so we'll click Bold here. Okay, 50 points, sorry. 50 and return. Okay, so there it is. And we'll type in Judgment Day. Okay, so J-U-D-G-E, Ment Day. Actually, it's a capital J and a capital D. Cap J. And this is an all cap face. So when you type the capitals, all it does is make a larger capital, and then the others are small capitals. Okay, I'm going to put this text underneath here. Notice how I have the vertical magenta bar there. That tells me it's centered. And now we're going to color it. And I'll double click on this text. And I'm going to go up to my swatches panel and click red. And if you don't have red in your swatches panel, then double click your fill color and create the word red. Or you can go down to one of your preset panels here. Like the RGB panel has red in it. The CMYK panel, I believe, has red in it also. So you can choose it from there. Okay, just a standard red is fine. So I'll click on that and it changes it to red. And now I'm also going to space the letters out, because if you look at the example over here, these letters are very spaced out. And that's tracking. We know that that's tracking. This is normal letter spacing, so I'm going to double click on this. I'm going to come over to my properties menu over here, and under tracking, right now it says 50. We're going to track this to 500. 500. I'm going to click enter and watch what happens to the spacing. Inside of these letter forms, you can see now, if I move to the move tool, that I've taken this word and I've spaced it out. Okay, everything is centered. I'm going to bring this word Judgment Day up a little bit, closer to the word Terminator. I'm going to use the up arrow key on my keyboard. And you can see that that kind of moves that up. Then I'm going to grab the word Terminator and the word Judgment Day. Click on Terminator, hold the Shift key down, click on Judgment Day, and you can see in the layers panel that it selected both. In fact, if I pull this up here, you can see when I click here and hold the Shift key down and click here, okay, what it did was it selected both. Oops, there it is. It selected both of these. Okay, so both of these are now selected, and now I can bring both of these down. Click on any one of these and bring them down and center it. Okay, there it centers. You can see that horizontal magenta line go through. And there it is. Okay, and there is our graphic. Okay, that is exactly this here. Okay, so that's how you create this text effect. It's basically using wow styles to stylize the text and to do a little effect on the background. But it's just that easy. I mean, it's a matter of, oh, we did a warp of the text, and there's other warp features that you can play around with too. But these are things that will help you in kind of spicing up your graphics, spicing up your text. We can also do that with imagery. It doesn't have to be text that we do this from. In fact, very quickly, what I can do is bring in a graphic and show you how we can do that. For now, let me just take this word Terminator and Judgment Day and put it up here. If I went into this Omakase demo here, I can grab this Japanese symbol here. Okay. And I can just kind of bring this and drag this into Photoshop here. Click OK. So we have this here. And I'll just drag this up a bit so that you can see it a little bit bigger. Oops. There we go. Oops, that's not doing that. Should be doing it. Option drag. That's how you drag from center. Okay. All right, so here I have this logo here. Let me just get these out of the way here for a sec. Let me just pull this up and pull this up. I'm going to bring this in. Okay. And I can do the same thing with the WoW styles. I can just select this layer and go to FX, and I can create by clicking on any of these. Create, you know, if I wanted that halo effect, you know, where it looks like it debosses the logo inside of the background, or make it kind of a rust metal look, or brush steel. Okay, kind of like the ones we just used. Okay, so these WoW styles, and then we can go in after we see that, and we can go click on effects, and we can modify the bevel emboss, let's say, make it less of a size. You can see how that's changing. Okay, that's kind of nice. And again, we can modify not just typography, but we can modify, you know, black and white line art as well. You probably don't want to do this to a photograph, but for graphics, you can, you know, you can do it with that, as long as the background has been removed. Okay, and we know how to remove backgrounds in Photoshop. Okay, so with that, oops, let me come back to you here and just say that that is the procedure in how we will, you can use the WoW styles and, you know, again, get a little more spice and punch into your graphics. Okay, with that, that's the end of this, and I will see you back in class.